Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Anchore open source gardening session of 2026. Happy New Year to everyone who's joining us or watching. We're the Anchore open source engineering team. My name's Dan, and we've got the whole team on today. We've got Will, Alex, Keith, and Chris. We're Anchore Open Source Engineering, and in these sessions we typically take a little bit of time to talk about any and all things SBOM, vulnerability scanning, open source insight inspection, license management. We've got a number of open source tools that effectively you can use to point at your software material and learn some more about it in the form of actionable documents like SBOMs and SPDX or native formats or Cyclone or other types of SBOM formats. And then our general principle is here is with that information, which is very rich, you can go off and perform some other interesting functions, vulnerability scanning, security checks, compliance checks, all sorts of interesting stuff. And so we've got a bunch of open source projects. Some of the three primary ones, Syft, Grype, and Grant, are up here on our newly launched at the end of 2025 open source docs page. We have other open source projects as well. And what we'll do is go through open issues from the community. We'll look at PRs, anything marked with a needs discussion. We'll usually kind of highlight those and have an open-ended conversation on the technical side of this world. So welcome, and let's get started. We were just talking about maybe there's some issues you guys might want to highlight, otherwise we can jump into our lists. But is there anything specific you'd like to jump into first?
Might as well start with the one on the top. We were just sort of in the midst of describing it, and it's time to click the button.
Oh yeah, that's the stereoscope, so here we go.
Anyone have a good summary of this one?
Yeah, the quick summary is this user is doing a podman save. They, well, okay, they're doing something and they're having a problem with our handling of the thing that they think should be handled as an OCI image. The way that they are replicating this is to do a podman save and then to tar these specific things from that archive and then scan that hand-created tar themselves. And the podman tar works, and this handcrafted tar does not work. And so it doesn't really look like they are missing any files, but like clearly something's different between the two. And so whatever's causing them grief is illustrated by this little snippet here, apparently. So that's the quick summary.
Curious. I'm actually trying to figure out what is the content difference. There's got to be one. But I don't immediately see it.
Right. The one thing I noticed, unfortunately, being on Mac here, I don't have a Podman handy. So I had a manifest.json was a obvious difference, but that he wasn't including that. But I guess apparently that's, according to this user, not required. It's an optional thing. And my knowledge of the OCI spec is quite limited. And we decided to just ask the expert and on stream.
Manifest is optional. I mean, like there is an index, but the index should point to, I guess, either one of the blobs or it. Oh, is that what's going on? I mean, I've got Podman running locally and I tried to replicate. I guess I should go read to see what they're seeing. Okay. Manifest in the layout is optional. Interesting. Yeah, I knew the index was optional. But the manifest? We go. This might be a today I learned thing.
And the other weird thing about this is, I believe what this user said is the original Podman save tar file works. It's only this,
Yeah.
the next step where they retar the file.
With everything except for manifest.json.
Well, that I guess apparently isn't there. So, but there's like clearly some difference between the Podman save tar and the tar that they make themselves, because one works and one doesn't. But as far as this user is said, there's no manifest in either, like in the original one. So like I don't know what the difference is, but not having Podman, I couldn't really investigate too easily.
Yeah, I mean, I just followed those steps and I have two identical seeming things. Like, wait, hold up. No. Tree. Gosh, if there's a difference, I cannot tell.
Does one scan with Syft and the other doesn't?
Yeah, yeah. So
It-
now I'm really curious.
This feels like maybe it was a better needs investigation than it needs discussion, though. Because I think we're sort of in agreement that like this archive doesn't scan. We're surprised it doesn't scan, and we don't know why it doesn't scan. Should we move on and discuss something else? Or
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, yeah, nothing here looks obvious. I think it is going to be an investigation. So I think it is a move on. So I don't have anything out of this. If anybody watching sees the answer, definitely shout out.
yeah, this is stereoscope issue 492. We would, if you know what's going on, we'd love to know why, or a PR even. I had a small like public service announcement, which is that last year in early March we released GrypeDB Schema v6, which means this year in early March we will stop supporting Schema v5. So if you run Grype version and you see a number that's 0.88.0 or lower, you will stop getting vulnerability data in early March. And that's just because we can't run the redundant CI jobs for like a year's old schema. So I just wanted to announce that. There's also some improvements that are hard to make in the old schema. So that's another reason to try to want to turn it off. So yeah, Grype that's less than a year old is okay. Although obviously we'd prefer you upgrade. And if you can't upgrade because of a reason, let us know an issue. But yeah, if you're on a Grype that's more than a year old in early March, you will stop getting new vulnerability data. So that was just a quick PSA, and we'll like post announcements too. I just wanted to say it while I was thinking about it.
Good call.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Will. I just wanted to make sure, what was the action on this one to put it into a needs investigation state?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
update that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just poking at it too, and like there is a manifest in the tar. It's just a blob that's referenced by the index. It's not called manifest JSON, which is
Yeah.
interesting. All right. Any other particular topics you guys want to go at, or should we go back to our list?
So go back to our list. Unless someone's got something.
I have nothing at the moment. Let's look at the list.
All right, we're on the list here.
Some of these look familiar to me that I think we covered the last time.
Yeah, I think the second one down, the Shai-Hulud 2 libraries, basically Grype will find things that are in GitHub security advisories as vulnerabilities or malware. Shai-Hulud 2 compromised repos would show up as malware. If there's one that you believe GHSA is missing, you can let us know to let them know, or you could let GitHub security advisories know directly. This also, we should check this because it might just not be true anymore because it could have been issued just during a time when the GitHub team was a little behind whatever had been found by these researchers.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, I think we can take this one out of needs discussion.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I'll just reiterate, like, we love working with GHSA because you can sort of like submit a pull request to improve vulnerability data for every, but that's not true of every provider.
Yep. Yep, that's right. Also, I remember on this one, like some of the packages identified were pulled, which makes it harder for the GHSA team. What the?
Slightly different reason to not get the package. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, let's move on. What's next?
All of these look familiar. I think we owe a cleanup of things that are labeled needs discussion, and we hope that people will open some really exciting issues for us to talk about. But all of those look kind of familiar to me. Does anybody think we haven't talked about any of those?
They all look familiar to me. I think
Cool.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean that's
There's
the
one.
that's the end of the list. So
I guess I've got another PSA in terms of this is more of an API change than it is anything else. Let me drop a couple of links to make this a little more obvious. So we have two projects for related to the Grype database. There's Grype itself, and there's also Grype DB. It's another application, and I'm going to post two PRs here. There's one. Here's the other. So just a little bit of context for like what the two repos are. I mean, Grype is the vulnerability scanners, but from the capabilities perspective, under the hood, it knows how to like read a Grype database, a SQLite database. Grype DB is an application that knows how to write said databases, and that's we use that to operationalize, like or create these production databases, and every night for supported schema versions for the last 5 years. And so we actually want to find a way to make our setup simpler. So when folks try to come to us and say, hey, we want to add a new capability, new provider, like that is a new vulnerability data set for you guys to match against. One of the criticisms we get is, hey, I have to open up a PR in Syft and Grype DB and Bundle, vulnerability match labels, test images. It's like there's at least 5 or 6 repos to go and play in order to get that feature across the finish line. And while that's one con, there are other cons, but we're trying to seek ways to make it easier. And at the same time, we have another effort to make testing better in Grype. So the PSA is what we want to do is to take the lib functionality that is in Grype DB, that is the stuff that knows how to build a database from the underlying vulnerability data on disk into a database. I want to take that lib and port it over to Grype. And so this PR is like the first step. The reason why it's a PSA is because that means that will be removed from the Grype DB lib in short order. And both of these projects are V0, so like we're able to make breaking changes like as needed. So when we move forward into V1 for Grype in the future, like that won't be the case. But this is a pretty big like movement of code, so it's probably worth shouting out. The upside is if anybody is using Grype DB in a lib capacity, which we don't think there's a lot of folks doing that. There's usually folks that are using the application. But if you are using it, it's anything that you could do in the lib in GrypeDB, you can still do in Grype. It's just in a different spot. It's in the DB package in Grype. So if this is confusing, feel free to shout out on the PR here. PR is 794 in GrypeDB, or probably the best one to shout out on is the 3149 in Grype. So more to come on that, but you know, it was worth at least mentioning. You know, there's another discussion we had earlier this week that would probably be fun to talk about. I don't have any issue for it. I don't have anything prepared for it, but earlier this week we started talking about what are the JSON changes, like speaking of breaking changes, what are the JSON changes we might want to make to Grype in the future? So Syft, you know, it's hit 1.0, it has a JSON schema, and so we essentially won't make breaking changes to that JSON schema unless we're going to V2 of Syft. For Grype, we are still in a bit of an like free range. We don't want to make giant breaking schema changes to the JSON output. In theory, we could. What we're going to probably going to be doing moving forward is like the existing JSON format that exists now will be kind of locked underneath like a V0. So if you wanted to, if we were moving forward in our JSON format and you wanted to get that old V0 approach, you can what we want to be able to do is say Grype-o JSON at V0, and you'd be able to get what we have today. But then something like a V1, which is what might be worthwhile chatting about now, would eventually become the default. So what is that? Today, we have essentially a collection of matches. Like everything in the JSON output is just a list of matches. A list of matches is a match is a tuple of a package, a vulnerability, and match details, or how we made the match. So moving forward, we want to make this more of a graph, and everyone tell me if I'm going off the rails, but like, and this is all early discussion, so it can always go in some other direction. But the thought was like a package ends up being, you know, a node in the graph, so it gets its own section in the JSON document. It should have their artifacts or packages section. For vulnerabilities, it would have its own section. All of the nodes for vulnerabilities are addressable themselves with IDs. And what we think of as a match today ends up being the relationships or edges between all of these nodes. And so there'd be either an edge or relationship section that can pair together like a package and a vulnerability, and on that edge, that same kind of match details would exist. So if you're like blurring your eyes and looking at the JSON document and you just looked at the relationship section, it would look very similar to what's there today. But at the same time, you can add more things. So if I wanted to say like, oh, I want to be able to say this file is vulnerable, or this other kind of node is vulnerable, or if I wanted to have some other kind of output, not just a vulnerability, maybe it's about end of life, or maybe it's about some other warning that we want to say about an artifact or a file or something else, that would just be another edge where we can put different kinds of details. So I'd say like TBD on like the issue that's going to outline the draft of this. But
I did put one in the chat. I created an issue for this.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. I didn't spend, it was most of our initial thoughts. And I didn't quite finish fleshing it all out, but there is an issue there.
All right. Thanks for doing that. So I thought I didn't find it. Apparently I just looked in the wrong place. That's all. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or reflections on that one, but this one, if for folks that are interested, would be worth like looking at, commenting on, and definitely shouting out like, hey, I want this feature in Grype. How would it be expressed in this JSON output? So
Yeah, and I guess the one comment that I have there is that I think this aligns Grype output a lot more with existing formats, like outputting vulnerabilities in SPDX and CycleNDX, etc. So yeah, definitely we use that a lot as a lot of inspiration.
yeah. Yeah, and Syft definitely got like a lot of its JSON output inspired from SPDX, which like, the JSON output is essentially an adjacency matrix. And so this ends up being very much the same thing. So but yeah, I don't think I've got anything else there. It's just worth shouting out. This is up and coming. So we have a few other things that's going to land before we try to tackle this. But I mean, this is one that we want to get in front of folks and to be able to shop it around, change it. So we'll probably have a like -o JSON at dev for a while that will be unstable, and we'll have these thoughts kind of reflected as we go. But eventually that would turn into like the default, or we might start it with a at v1 and then make that the default. So a little TBD on that one, but
That's also a really cool functionality to be able to actually experience it with adding a dev output option and directly in the tool. I think that's a powerful function. Yeah.
yeah, there's going to be a few other of those kinds of features we're going to want to do that's going to influence the output too. Those might be put behind like an experimental flag or something, or a way where we don't want to like change the way that folks are using Grype dramatically today, but we still want a way to be able to enable it to see here's what it's going to look like going forward. So like one thing that's come up is being able to orient packages or orient the output in different ways, whether by package, by vulnerability, or by some other metric. Like that just impacts the output so much that like we would, if we tried to add that and that was the default experience, I think it would be extremely jarring to anyone using Grype today. But if we also just landed it like as soon as v1 released, that would also be too jarring too. So we need a kind of a long runtime with these, get some feedback.
Excellent.
Cool. I guess that's it with this one.
Okay.
And thanks, Keith, for writing the issue side. Wish I saw it earlier. So.
Yep. So it's noted here, and I'll drop a link in the chat as well for folks later. This is the place to come and have some discussion about this particular topic.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have like non-vulnerability findings in the JSON. Like we're gonna be sort of shoehorning into the existing JSON pretty soon. Like, hey, your these packages are from an end of life distro, so we don't have good data because no one's updating the security feed. And then like that it will be nicer to represent that in the new schema. So I'm excited about it.
Excellent. All right. Well, we've gone through our needs discussion issue lists. Sounds like we've had discussions about all of these on prior, so I do agree. Like we should probably take an action to decide how to move them forward. See what needs to happen to get them out of a needs discussion, or if they really should stay. Then
I have some time this afternoon. I can take that action to just go through and start removing labels and getting them moved to their proper spaces. So we have a fresh list for next week.
Nice. And Dan, actually, I dropped one more in the chat.
Oh, you did? Okay. Let's see.
And this one's more of a.
Is it the pull request?
Yeah, it's a pull request about like bumping to container DEV2. And this one's more of a like, I was curious what other folks' thoughts were here. um, so this PR is actually doing something that's very small. It's like just bumping from container DV1 to container DV2 for our stereoscope lib. Um, but it called out like, hey, this is probably going to be a breaking change. And I've kind of gone back and forth in this one for a little bit. So I was curious for other folks' thoughts here. But I think the TLDR on what happened upstream is there's this open containers runtime spec repo, which has also like the reference implementation for Go and some constants. I can't remember the exact details, but that they made a release that was not a break in, not bumping the major version, but did break from a Go compiler perspective. And that means that anybody who is using, Stereoscope or really Syft or Grype today as a lib have no choice but to be on container DV1, even though there is container DV2 available to us. But because there's no way to have container DV1 and 2 based off of the way that the breakage was done in a binary at the same time, the compiler will not allow it because of, again, like it's just because of the way the breakage was done. That means we're basically keeping any consumers on V1 of container D. And if we ourselves bump this dependency to V2, we're going to be breaking our consumers that are trying to use container D for their own needs. So I don't know. What are folks' thoughts on this one? Like, what's the right way for us to like move this forward where we can actually bump container D, but not have to wait on upstream for inaction? If there is, then something we could do.
Sorry, I kind of didn't catch quite the last part, but I mean, I guess the question I have is that this old version is probably not getting any updates, right? So, I mean, if we stay on it, we're, at risk of any potential security issues that are there. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, from that perspective, I certainly understand that the breakage part is, that's a situation that isn't very good, but it seems to me like we just have to bite the bullet and do it. And whoever's using this library also has to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Is it worth like a major version of Stereoscope? I know right now we're pre 1.0, but yeah, so that doesn't really do us any good, right? Because we can just make a new version of Stereoscope and you have to pin back. Yeah.
Like,
This
what
is a
about
really
SIP?
frustrating.
Sorry, and I was gonna say, like, what about SIPT consumers? Like, they would have to, like, API consumers, they have to similarly bump. But you were saying, Will?
I was just sort of, lamenting. This is kind of a frustrating like decision, like because Go has mechanisms for like making this sort of change easier to manage if you make a major version, right? But it seems like upstream made a change that won't compile in a minor version, and so
Can
Yeah, I
we
mean,
submit some patches to the Go compiler? So yeah, no.
yeah, you can.
option
I
3, yeah. We found a third option finally. Because yeah,
yeah,
I've only been able to think of it essentially the two options: we wait or we bite the bullet.
I just did they break the container D Rust client? Should we rewrite Rust?
Another option C.
I mean, I think from the, I may be wrong, but all of the consumers that I'm aware of Stereoscope essentially go through Syft and don't have any additional container D usage beyond letting Syft and Stereoscope do its own thing. I mean, I'm sure that there are some in the that do that, but the ones that I'm aware of don't, as far as I know. Is that accurate, or do we have some that fall into that category that are doing some other containerd thing that this would actually affect?
I mean, yeah, that's hard to tell. I mean, I definitely know. I think you're right in the terms of like most of the folks using Stereoscope are using it via Syft. Um, but like it's kind of, but it's like there's another use case too, right? It's like, what if there is a Syft consumer that is also using for their own purposes containerd v1? So like where Stereoscope kind of gets put to the side in a lot of ways. And there's a chance of that being more prevalent than, like you're saying, like just a straight up Stereoscope user. There are some out there, but like, yeah, it's not nearly as much as like a Syft API user. Because like, say, like, so we know like Zarf from Defense Unicorns, they're using Syft as a lib. And say like Zarf had, and I'm just making this next part up, like say Zarf was using containerd for their own purposes, and like they had built a bunch of features on a lot of those things. Like us making a breaking change means like they would have to port any surface area where they're touching containerd v1 to v2. Like, is that like us biting the bullet's one thing, but like, should we force others to also bite such bullet? Or is there some other path that I'm missing?
I mean, I definitely am not seeing another path here, but I guess what I meant by biting the bullet is that if they're on containerd v1, like they have the same problem that they're not getting any security updates either, and so like it is I mean, as everybody said, it's a frustrating situation, but I just don't really see a way out of, other than just delaying until we eventually upgrade to do anything different.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong though, but you also made a pretty comprehensive suggestion over here, right? What I've got on the screen right now, like, is that?
Yeah.
There hasn't been any commentary back. It's still an open issue, but.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, that would be.
The Datadog guys project just mentioned this like during this live stream. I think they're running into a similar problem.
Oh, nice.
They reference back to the issue. Right, so I go look at that, and it's like, it appears we have to bump containerd to v2 before being able to merge this, right? So.
Yeah, I'm actually not betting on upstream, doing such change.
Okay. Yeah.
So because if they do, then I guess you're right. Like it's yes, we just migrate over to the new thing, and that's okay. I think it would still be. No, it would not be breaking that. Yeah, if they made another project, like in theory, it would work just fine. But short of them doing that, I don't know what to do. So okay, I think I guess we have our answer, which is, what would be the timeline? Should we merge this within some period of time, or try to give someone warnings via announcements? Like I feel like anything is kind of imperfect and it's going to have some collateral damage.
Well, and I think merging slow and merging fast can both break people, right? Because if someone is in the situation where they're trying to use like Syft and containerd directly, and we don't merge, they're broken. Like they're prevented from upgrading, and if we merge soon, they're like required to upgrade. But in both situations, somebody could be broken. So I think maybe communicate loud and then go for it is the only good choice we have. Am I missing something?
No, I think that's it. So okay, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Next time on vacation, I'll merge this. No, I was kidding.
Well, let me ask one other question. I mean, this is a really bad idea, so I'm not suggesting that we do this, but we could fork something, and so Stereoscope was only dependent on a fork of something, and like that would prevent the conflicts.
It would be because it's a dependency of a dependency. See, how would that work? So it'd be a go. I think we'd have to do a go mod edit replace because like we can't have our dependency. Sorry, but Stereoscope's not using the breaking package directly. It's like being used via a dependency, and because of that, I think the only thing we could do is a go mod edit replace to like point to our fork to do that. We couldn't actually bump it the nice way because the imports in the dependency we have would be pointing at container dv1.
But people wouldn't pick up that replace directive themselves, right? Because the replace is only for the local thing. So they would need to use their own replace directives.
Yeah.
But I think that would end up causing a problem. Like I think what it would need to do is forking container D and the other the downstream library and basically like repointing everything at those forks. Like I said, this is not a good idea.
Oh yeah.
But I think it would potentially work.
Yeah.
We'd have to like fork the whole tree.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't think we can realistically do that.
The upside is I think it is a shallow tree, but I'm still on side a bridge too far. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, I think the way this will stop being a problem is when everybody is on the new container D, right? And then and
so we're part of the problem. You're right.
and so right, because like they already released the thing with the breaking change, and the time to talk them out of it was before they did that, and now putting it back would be an even worse breaking change, and so I guess they could like yank the breaking change minor version and re-release it under a new major version to try to recover or something. But I think realistically, what's going to happen is everybody's stuck until all their dependencies move to the new one, and then everybody's on the new one and forgets about this. I think that's the realistic course of the future. So we might as well join camp, be on the new one, and hope we can forget about it. And like if you depend on Syft or Stereoscope as a library, and I am saying something that makes you very nervous and angry, let us know in an issue. Like we want to be helpful here. It's hard when we have to use container D because we talk to container runtimes and stuff, and they made a change where we can't compile like we have, so we have to move forward, I think. But let us know if you have opinions, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we can kind of key off of this last note that you put, Alex. Let this simmer for just a little bit. I mean, I agree with the general plan, but we're in a position where I think unless there's a compelling reason, like functional reason, we don't necessarily have to pull the trigger. We could wait a little longer. Like under what you just described, Will, where it's like we're in a transition period, but eventually no one's going to care because everyone will have moved over. The longer we wait, the more projects will have moved over for other reasons.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it is another parameter we have to play with, which is like how long should we wait? The longer we wait, I feel like it lowers the chances of breaking somebody because it gives more time for folks to move over to V2 if they're using both Container D and the Anchore libraries.
But they can't move over until we do it, right? Like if someone depends on Container D and Stereoscope today, they cannot upgrade Container D. And after we merge and release this change, they must upgrade Container D.
Oh,
am I misunderstanding that?
No. I was thinking. Yep, I was thinking of it the other way around. Sorry.
Right.
It's chicken or the egg, but attached to a foot gun.
Right. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So I think because like either clients of Stereoscope and Syft cannot upgrade Containerd, or clients of Stereoscope and Syft must upgrade Containerd. Like, put it this way, if we release a new version of Syft that has the new Containerd, people have the option to upgrade. And people who don't want to upgrade can keep both pinned back. But right now, because we haven't released a version of Syft and Stereoscope with the new Containerd, they do not have the option to upgrade. So I think it's nicer to our clients to release the upgrade. And if they can't accept the upgrade yet, then they have the option not to accept the upgrade. But if something else is pushing them towards upgrading, right now they don't have the option. So I think that's leaning me towards like sort of shout a warning and go for it.
Yeah.
But
That's a compelling argument. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I think we're there. So now it's just when, well, maybe a week or two, we'll hit the merge button for this one. So I guess it could be now. It's already been weeks. So, well, I've got another topic unless anybody's got another something else in mind.
Go for it.
All right. This one is a little more tangential to what we're used to talking about. For context, like, Will pointed this out to me the other yesterday, day beforehand, I can't remember, that Go releasers started using a fork of Quill. So context, what's Quill? We have a project called Quill. It's a library and a CLI, much like most of our Go projects, usually ends up being both a lib and a CLI, in order to do signing of Mac binaries natively. So you don't need to like be on a Mac in order to sign these binaries. And that's really important for us in the release process wise, because if if Syft binary, Grype binary showing up on a Mac system ends up being flagged if it's by the OS, if it is not signed and notarized by Apple. So that's something that we just have to do. But at the same time, running on Apple systems and CIs can be expensive and kind of annoying to like get right all the time. So Quill was a really fun project to get us out of that like black hole of how to solve those issues. Yet, and so now we have this lib and tool. And so anyway, that's the context of what that is. So yeah, Will pointed this one out to me, and I was like, oh, so I knew that Go releaser was using Quill under the hood, but Will pointed out like, hey, they're using a fork now. And a little bit of digging showed that the reason for this was to get rid of basically dependencies that are in the Go sum, not necessarily the Go mod. So like, things like bubble tea and lip gloss related things, they're only using the command package for Quill, and they're not used in the library aspect. So like technically, if you're to go, if you were to go releaser and try to like see which packages are, yes, Go releaser is I think using bubble tea on the hood. I haven't checked though, but like say it wasn't, just for argument's sake. Quill wouldn't pull that in. It would be considered because it's in the Go sum in terms of what packages might be needed by the compiler. But ultimately, that packages from Quill, from bubble tea would not be included. But at the same time, that's just more noise in the Go sum. It's also extra things the compiler does have to consider as input. So I think that was the reason for the fork, which is like, hey, we don't even want anything here to be able to say, we don't want anything here to be able to that conveys like, hey, we're using bubble tea and lip gloss. Really, we're not. So I have a question. So this would get solved pretty easily if we introduced a go.mod or a new Go module sitting in the lib itself. So that is like we have a Go module at the top of the repo that represents like everything, and we could put one directory down at the top of the lib as well, in which case folks can pull in that specific module that doesn't depend on bubble tea or lip gloss, etc., and any of that stuff that's really just for the command package. And if we were doing this day one, there's probably even a slightly different way we would do it. But given like where we're at today, topologically, like that might be the next best thing. And thus, Go Really doesn't have to depend on this fork, and we might decide to do the same kind of thing in our other repos like Syft and Grype, where we have like these are libs and CLI tools. So anyway, I'll pause there and say, what do folks think about that? Is that is there anything that I miss that's bad?
I have one question. Could we do it the other way? Could we put the Go mod in the command package and then
Yeah.
have the top level Go mod be the one for the lib?
Yeah,
I would,
that's actually,
I think I would prefer to do that, but
me too. And the only reason why I was like, oh, not that is because like say for Syft, we would have to, it would be a breaking change. We'd have to like, there would be no Go mod. So we would take the top, there'd be one of a few ways to do it. You put the Go mod, as you're saying, in the command package, but then the one sitting at the root of the repo would turn into the lib one, and thus you would take out what is like the Syft subdirectory there and just make it like the root. And so like the top one is just the lib. But oh wait, but you're saying, I guess you're saying no, a third thing, which is like leave everything as it is and just add the command one.
yeah, exactly. It just-
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so the lib one just, I mean, still has that subdirectory like it does today. I mean, that's like, I agree. It would be nice if it was like moved up one, but it don't really have to change that. The main thing just being the command package being, right? Because that way, like, I think the one thing that I would see happening is like the internal stuff that's up at the top level, like that needs to get rearranged a little bit and can't be accessed from the command to the other one. And I think if it was the lib, that would be worse because the command is like accessing public lib functions, right? You know what I mean? So like, I think if we like just flip that, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, I like the flavor variant there. Put it in command. Isolate command away from a package concern. And then nobody has to make any change. They just see stuff go away from their Go sum. So cool.
Right. I do think like there are changes that would have to happen, but like they would all be like internal
Yeah.
package somehow moving like being available to the command or something like that. But
yeah. And actually, I didn't read the entire like changes to the fork. It might be that there was more changes made here that I didn't look at. So I might take a poke at that.
I was poking at, I was looking at the files changed here. I mean, it's entirely in Go mod, but that's for the PR. I don't know if the fork has other changes.
Oh yeah, here I'll drop what is the primary change in the fork. There's one commit that kind of does that hinted to me why they were doing it. It's like yeah, delete the command package. And there's a few other changes here, and I should go and understand it.
I dropped a link to the diff. So
Thanks.
like Alex said, the command stuff just got deleted. So it looks like right there.
You know what? And there are a few more changes. It looks like anything that was a log entry just got thrown away as well. I bet you anything that's like bus publish got thrown away. So then it gets rid of like the logger interface that we have, and also like anything for the bus, which is like party bus and other things. Which, to say explicitly, like those would not get solved by this. Like, so if say like the Go Releaser team was like, well, great, we see that you've done added this extra module and command that's gotten rid of like bubble tea and lip gloss, but we still wanted to get rid of that other stuff, then we have no way to nicely do that, like the logger and bus. So because the nice thing about the logger is that it's just an interface that gets pulled in. It's the command package that pulls in the implementation, like logris and things. So it's there shouldn't be a need to like rip out log related stuff. And I'll say asterisk with the bus, but
I feel like the logging going away is not ideal. I mean, even if there was like some other sort of change that we could do that, I don't really know what the specific problem with that is or whatever, but
yeah. I think it's probably a like a gut instinct in terms of like, oh, this lib has a logger. I don't want to pull in the weight of the logger. Since I'm forking, I'll rip it out anyway. That's like my guess. Because I think if they went one step deeper, they would have seen, oh, the logger is actually a nil logger. It's like a no-op logger. By default, it does nothing until you wire it up to a specific implementation, and you could choose any logger implementation you want. So you might go see what Go releaser is using as a logger facility. That might be a quick one to like add to our adapters, because we have a set of adapters. We only have one that we've implemented, the one we use. But like in theory, let's just say that like Logris had a huge CVE and no one was going to patch it. Like we could right now very easily say, we'll make a new implementation by pulling in Zap or another locking implementation, throw it into GoLogger, and then just in each command package where we're using it, just make a one-line swap and it would be done. Actually, I guess it's one-line swap in Clio, and then we just bump that version of Clio use everywhere, so it's even simpler. But okay, anyway. So it sounds like popping off the stack, we might want to go look at a command package module for our main projects.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea, like, because it establishes a nice pattern too, and for what it's worth, I agree with your intuition. It seems like in the diff, most of that is around like we want to reduce the number of dependencies more than remove things from the code. It feels like that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and Keith, you found the logger, and you know what? That logger is very Go releaser looking.
Oh,
yeah. Here's the repo that you were pointing to, Keith.
yeah, the Go releaser author's own log package.
Yeah. And you see the snapshot, like, oh, that's Go releaser. So, cool.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, regardless, I think. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I mean, like you said, the other logger is just an interface, so I suspect it would be fairly trivial to connect those up.
Oh, man, I think it's going to get vibed into existence any minute now. So. All right, well, I've got nothing else on this topic, and it looks like we're coming up on time too.
We definitely are. Let's see, we just got a few more minutes. You guys want to there's only one item in our PRs with needs discussion.
Oh, it's the one on screen.
Yeah, we've talked
that
about
one.
that.
I'll take that one off needs discussion. It's not a needs discussion unless somebody has. That's my bad. I should have taken that off. Unless somebody's saying otherwise, that we should talk about this one.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, at the last live stream. It's just I think we left it in needs discussion. So.
Oh, I think I missed that one. You guys, yeah, I honestly do think this is the way that this is done is going to change based off of the work that was done for the doc site.
Right.
I don't know if that's true. I'll leave that just kind of floating there. So, but yeah, the point of this PR was to be able to convey at any node in the SBOM how complete the subgraph is. Like, do we know if we have all transitive dependencies there? Do we know it's only direct dependencies? Do we know if those dependencies are like fully connected, meaning like it's a full DAG, or is it this flat where I only have all of the nodes, but it's my current node to every other transitive node directly. I should say every other transitive dependency, but now directly. So you lose that what is actually an indirect dependency versus a direct dependency information. So that's what this is supposed to do. I think the hows of this is like woefully out of date. So we did not come to a conclusion about how this should be conveyed. Like, do we want this to be a simple property on the package? Do we want this to be an object that conveys things about nodes and edges and separate fields? Is this really something that lives on the node and lives on the edge? Like I think there's still lots of debate on this. So hence it's gone to a full stale. I should put this in draft. It doesn't look like it should need to be reviewed. So all sorts of things.
Okay.
But yeah, I took off the news discussion on this one.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, it's been, yep. Yep, I think we talked about it, but essentially came to the conclusion of like, yeah, I think we should hear from Alex before we move that one next.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the doc command output does have, I mean, I know it's probably not as accurate as like some of what we're talking about doing, but it does have some representation of that today.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I want to. I think this PR is probably just going to be closed, and so I'm going to say up front, I've given no thought to this, but a possible path is to what you're alluding to, like take the work that's been done there, and can now convey that in the SBOM, and like the biggest things up for grabs is okay, well, what is that representation? Would we use it the same way that we do it in the doc site, or would it be something else? But where the information comes from would be totally different. So this PR is not like really needs to be done, like reworked now entirely. So here, yeah, this stuff here.
Yeah, like there's 3 columns in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, yeah. For folks watching, like the doc site, some work was done to generate this kind of information by the team here, and it's really, really cool. So for all of the language frameworks, you can get a lot more information about, how those catalogers work, and very specific information, including some of the dependency depth information. So
yeah, and this was fun because this is using what it's one of the, I really like when there's a feedback loop that self-reinforces. If you do the right thing, you just get stuff for free. And what this is doing is if you have good tests, you get something like this for free. So a lot of the information is driven from what we see in test observations. So we have it's kind of a single test harness in Syft for catalogers and how they get tested. And that allows us to kind of have a choke point to say, well, this test harness, when we ran all the tests for all the catalogers, we saw these things. We saw it had, we're able to see that this cataloger raised up relationships. We're able to see that they were like qualified. So, whether it be dev or not. And so we're, given these observations and tests, we just write that out to JSON. And that ends up being the basis for generating this portion of the doc site. So every time somebody adds a new cataloger in Syft, if we're following all the same conventions, and the way that it's been done is that it's very easy to follow those testing conventions. Then yeah, you don't have to do anything, and the doc site gets updated. These tables get updated, which is fun.
very cool. Excellent. Okay. Well, thanks, Alex. There was just that one PR, so I thought we'd maybe hit it, and we did. So nice. Thank you. Looks like we're at time. So unless there's anything else you guys want to close with, we'll probably wrap it up for today. And yep, sounds good. Okay. Well, in that case, I'll say Happy New Year to everyone again. We're back on track, so we'll do our gardening sessions every week. So thanks for joining this week or watching, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Cheers, folks.
Thanks all.
You will.